I'm going to install the Anaconda Python distribution on a Windows 10 Pro virtual machine. To start with, I go to the anaconda.com website. To find the actual download link, if you click on the menu icon and then go down to free download, at first it will ask you to sign up, but if you look at the small skip registration link, you don't actually need to do that. You can just click download to get the appropriate version, which in this case is the Windows 64-bit graphical installer. This will take a little while to download, so I'm fast forwarding this part of the video. Once the download has finished, I'll launch the installer that I've just downloaded and click Next. I'll accept the license agreement. I'm going to do a single install for all users on the machine, which means I have to accept that it will make changes to the device. I'll accept the default destination folder, which is in C Program Data Anaconda 3. I'm going to accept the default to create menu shortcuts, which are useful, and to register Anaconda 3 as the system version of Python, which is optional, but since I'm only going to be using this version of Python on this Windows machine, I'll do that, and I'll click Install. Out of curiosity, I'm going to click on Show Details to see what's actually going on. Now that says the installation is complete, so I'll click to Next and Next again. I'm not going to look at the Getting Started guide, but I do want to launch Anaconda Navigator. Okay, so I don't want to sign up or sign in to anything. I'm going to close that. It asks me if I want to update to a newer version of Anaconda Navigator, so I will do that. Oh, I've missed that hidden window, so I'm going to click Update Now on there. I'm going to shrink the browser to make sure I don't miss anything else. Looks like I might have launched the installer twice by mistake, so I'll cancel that. That was quick. I'll launch the navigator now that it's been updated. Okay, so the software I'm particularly interested in is the Jupyter Notebook and Jupyter Lab. However, I know that these don't actually work correctly in the Anaconda installation by default. So what I'm going to do is to quit Anaconda Navigator, and I am going to go to the Anaconda prompt, right click that and run it as administrator, because I want to make changes to this shared installation, which I won't be able to do as a normal user. already, the base environment is already activated. However, if I check what version of Python is enabled, I see that it's 3.11.7. The most recent version of the Jupyter Notebook, version 7, which includes the debugger functionality that we want, only actually works correctly with Python 3.12. So I am going to say that I want to install Python 3.12, Conda install Python equals 3.12. So this will install an updated version of Python, and it has to update various other packages to match, including changing the notebook to version 7.0.8 and Jupyter Lab. It will install version 4.0.11. The Anaconda Navigator actually says that those versions are already installed, but from experience I can say that they don't work. That has now completed. There's one more change that's needed, however, because the Anaconda installer for some reason disables the debugger functionality in the Python kernel that it uses for the Jupyter Notebook. So we have to find the details of the kernel configuration that we need to edit using Conda kernel spec list. No, sorry, it is Jupyter kernel spec list. And that tells us that the kernel configuration is set in this directory. There'll be a file in that directory called kernel.json. The program data folder is hidden by default. So if I go to the file navigator, go to the C drive and select view and tick hidden items, then I can now see the program data folder. So now if I open Notepad as administrator, I should be able to find this folder, go to Anaconda 3, share, Jupyter, kernels, Python 3. I have to switch off the filter so that shows all documents and open that. You can see here it says debugger false. I need to change that to true and save the file. Having done that, I should be able to launch the Anaconda Navigator again. Scroll down here to find Jupyter Notebook. It must be this one. So I'm launching the Jupyter Notebook. I am going to create a new notebook in my documents folder for now. There's only one available kernel, so I'll use that. Now you can see there's this debugger icon. I can now tick that and it goes red. That's enabled the debugger. If I go to the view menu and enable debugger panel, I can see this. So this lets me, for example, if I write some code with a loop in here, I can just run that cell as normal. But because the debugger is enabled, you can see the values of variables are showing up here. I can also, for example, tick in here to assess a breakpoint. If I run that cell again, this cell, then it stops when it gets to that point. You can see the values of these variables. I can minimize some of these other areas to just show the variables more clearly, and I can, for example, just click this button a few times to go through a line at a time and seeing how the values of these variables change. Or I can continue, in which case it just keeps going until that breakpoint, remove the breakpoint and complete the execution, and so on.